This is somewhat unusual, but especially with wrong.
Okay, and I did note them in there, so if you want me to pull the stack right now and give it
Hey, Deidre.
How are you?
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting of August 24th.
You need a little bit more time, or do you need just to get closer?
You might need to get closer.
Let's try it again. Can everybody hear me? Okay, thank you. Before we get started, pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of the public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings and/or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I'd just like to ask for attendance meetings review.
Member Camisa present.
Member Callahan, present.
Member Glenn present.
Member Barry present, Member Mead present. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for 30 to 34 Chapman Street, site plan special permit, planning board case number 2015-47, which has been continued from the June 8th, 2016 meeting. We have a communication, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is on Chapman Street. We received a letter in the office dated August 23rd that the applicant respectfully requests that the application for special permit and a site plan review be withdrawn without prejudice.
Do I have a motion from the board to accept the open withdrawal? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is public hearing for 77 to 83 Newbury Avenue modification site plan special permit planning board case 2016-08, continued from the June 8, 2016 meeting. Mr. Stevens?
Mr. Chairman, in a letter dated August 22nd, the applicant has submitted a request that the application be withdrawn without prejudice.
Any discussion amongst the board?
Have one.
Barry?
I would like to request, on behalf of the board, if the board is amenable, that the planning department obtain a copy of the building inspector's report so that we can understand exactly what the existing site condition is at the property.
There's a motion. Do I hear a second to Mr. Barry's motion?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item is a continued public hearing for R264 West Street site plan special permit planning board case 2016-05, continued from July 13, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, in a letter dated August 23rd, the applicant has requested a continuance of this matter until the next available meeting.
Which would be
September 14th.
September 14th.
September 14th.
Can I have a motion to accept the request to extend?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We'll take a little bit out of order. Continued public hearing for 500 Commander Shea Boulevard, Boston Scientific Special Permit, Planning Board Case 2016-07, continued from the July 13, 2016 meeting. Mr. Stevens?
Mr. Chairman, in a letter dated August 24th, the applicant has requested the application be withdrawn without prejudice.
A motion to accept the request. Second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. I think the next item, which is a continued public hearing for 150-154 Quincy Avenue, site plan special permit, planning board case 2016, continued from the July 13th, 2016. The applicant, sorry to throw you a curve.
That's all right. I've been getting them all day. Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. It's the summer, it's almost Labor Day, it's hot. Thank you for being here. We're here this evening on a continued public hearing for our case at 150-154 Quincy Avenue. And as you know, it's a proposal to build 17 townhouse units. The zoning of this property is Residence C, which allows 18 units by right. So what we proposed is a project that complies with the zoning ordinance in terms of the number of units as well as the size of the units and having adequate parking for 17 units. Since we were here last, the peer review was completed by the city's peer review engineer. We received a peer review report from him, and our engineer, Mr. Buckley, prepared a response to the peer review report where he went through every one of the items, answered them if they required an answer, or modified the plans or corrected the plans if the comment required a modification or a correction. We've also worked with the city departments, the engineering department, as well as traffic, to answer any concerns that they have, any questions that they've raised. And finally, one item that came up at the hearing last time was there was talk about having a no left-hand turn sign at the driveway coming out of Quincy Avenue. There was also talk of having an island, a hard island in the middle of the driveway that would force the cars to take a right out of this property. Our traffic engineer, Mr. Gillen, has met with the fire department, and they have advised us that they're not in favor of having an island like that in the driveway, that it creates too much of a restriction point to access to the property for emergency vehicles. William Buckley is our civil engineer. He's here, and I think I'd like to call him up and he can explain some of the issues and changes that we made to his plans since the last time we were here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. And the changes were very minor, and what I'd like to do is just approach the board and maybe touch on them. We had a comment from the building commissioner, and it was a comment on egress, making sure that we met the access requirements of the second egress leaving the building, and specifically it was building 4. And so what we decided to do is we've actually slid the middle unit forward 2 feet, and we've rotated some of the stairs in order to make sure that people exiting the back of that building can get to a public way safely. One of the other items that we did was on the landscape plan. The commission, the board asked us to modify, this is the landscape plan, but another item was change the elevation of the buildings in order, or change the elevation in order to show you what the landscaping would look like, because there was a disconnect between the landscape plan and the elevation. So we've added in the trees that were there, and you can see those trees. And the board also asked us to add some low plantings along the front. So we're looking right now, we're looking at the site from Quincy Avenue. So we've added some low plantings along the front of the, or not the front of the building, but between the building and the street in this area here, so that if you were coming along Quincy Avenue, it wouldn't block out the buildings, but it would definitely soften the look of the cars, which we've shown in there too, so you can see how that looks as well.
Question, Mr. Buckley, that's not going to impede the visibility coming out of the unit building?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay.
And as Chris pointed out, we looked into the issue of putting an island in there, and we decided not to based on discussions with the fire department. But even from the last meeting, we still have a no right turn sign on the property, which of course is still there. And I think those were the main items. The rest of them were kind of small technical things that the consultant had asked us to do, to utilities and stormwater, things like that.
Any questions from the board? Before I open it up, I'm going to ask Steve Hall to speak to, from Public Works, to speak to drainage and other issues.
Good evening. So I'm here tonight to just kind of explain what has changed on the stormwater. I met with the city engineer's office. There were a few additions comments that they had on the plan specifically related to some of the more upland drainage. Those conditions have been met. They've added some perforated pipe running from the higher detention basin to the lower detention basin to help relieve some of the water flow in heavy storms. It's actually above and beyond what's required by the Mass Stormwater Standards. And they've also increased the footing at the bottom of the level spreader to allow for areas for the water additional area for it to drain. The one thing that was raised, although I don't think I mentioned it to the planning department, was that the construction of the utilities is pretty close to other people's property lines. So being a good applicant, I'm sure they will get all the necessary construction easements if they have to go on other people's property to construct those utilities.
So the city engineer is there.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions from people? Thank you. Okay, it is a public hearing, so I will open it up to public comment. Anyone who would like to come up and speak? Welcome, come up, just identify yourself.
I am Donna Calderola, and I'm one of the trustees representing 140 Quincy Ave, which is the apartment adjacent to this construction site. We've met with the owners and we've discussed our concerns with them as far as anything that's going to impede our property, the construction schedule. We're looking for protection of our property, of course, and during construction and any result of rain, drainage, once the construction site is complete. The owners have expressed to us that their attorney would put something together, that they would work with us. We're fine with that as long as they do work with us. And, we did want to get something in writing as far as us being notified as far as if blasting's going to take place, if water is going to be shut off for a day, we want to be notified. We don't want to be affected as far as coming in our property and, coming home from work and not having any water or be able to get in your property because there's trucks. So these were some of the concerns that we had. And of course, any damage that would be caused to our property. We want our property surveyed before the construction begins, pictures taken. So if there is anything that, you know, we're not, you know, disputing the construction, the owners have agreed to work with us, we're happy with that. But we do want to, you know, protect our property and see something in writing, so.
Understand?
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anybody else like to speak? Heard last time, anyone else like to speak? All right, Counselor, do you want to speak?
Anyone else? All in favor? Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Hope you're enjoying your summer. You're here, so I'd have to imagine so. You know, as I know, we've been going, this project has been vetted quite substantially over the last, might even be a year at this point. And there's been quite a few neighborhood meetings and meetings over coffee, you know, with the local residents. So I do appreciate the applicant's willingness to work with the abutters particularly. I know Deirdre had mentioned you know, stormwater containment, and I'm pretty confident that that's got worked to a level that it'll be self-sustaining. You know, one of the concerns that was expressed was, you know, the folks who live on Martinson Street, you know, what does this mean to their project? I feel that, you know, the applicant is not an engineer. I can just tell you what I see. That's why we hire peer review, because they're engineers. But what I've seen is a willingness to really work with the neighborhood, you know, on various issues. I've also had several conversations with the applicant, and they're looking to you know, make contributions to public safety in that particular area. And I think we as a city are also looking to make contributions to public safety in that area. So, yeah, I've seen nothing but a willingness on behalf of the applicant to work with the neighborhood. So, at this point, I just want to say one thing, and I do believe this, that the construction manager, Larry Ignetti, you know, we've spoken a lot. He's essentially going to be the day-to-day guy. You know, to the folks that came out from the condo, you know, it's important to understand, because I believe that you will be, you know, your closest point of contact through construction, and I do believe that everything that he's laid out in terms of expectation will deliver upon. So, I mean, with that being said, those of you who have driven by Quincy Avenue, you know that those two properties particularly leave a lot to be desired. And you know, you're going to be presented here with some high-end residential construction that will certainly be an improvement to the area, at least aesthetically. And as we continue our effort as a city to improve the public safety along the roadway, I think that you know, positive change will be coming. So I'm actually speaking in favor.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Before I ask for a motion to close the public hearing, I'd like to read into the record a couple pieces of correspondence. One is from Orion Thomas Mason, who lives at 166 South Street, It's addressed to myself and the board. I am unable to attend tonight's meeting due to a scheduling conflict, but I would like to provide comments that I have in the capacity of a Quincy resident concerning a couple of projects that are noted. This one is concerning 150, 154 Quincy Avenue, case number 2016-10. I'd like to express that as a neighbor resident for over 13 years, the traffic from both automobiles and pedestrians alike has been dangerous due to the steep slope of the hill and the very tight placement of buildings in the immediate vicinity. This is also often considerable runoff of water due down the street and into the neighborhood areas to the clear cutting of virtually all ground cover and forestation. This is a condition that has corroborated by other residents and workers in the neighborhood. I hope that the proponent will take into account the safety and well-being of the neighbors by not overdeveloping the site and by retaining some of the critical tree cover at the sides and the back of the property, which would mitigate its impact on the neighborhood. Second piece of correspondence that I believe has already been alluded to, but it's from Deputy Chief Joe Jackson, My apologies for the inconvenience in weighing in at this time. I just sat down with Jack Gillen and discussed a tentative plan to put a small island at the entrance of this property. And I'm certain after viewing the plans and applying our trim radius specifications, that this island would impede fire department access to the property. I would respectfully ask that the other measures, that other measures be employed to discourage illegal turns when exiting the property. Thank you, and signed by Deputy Chief Joseph Jackson. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, that's not me. I apologize for that. Okay. Department have a recommendation?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. Just to cover a little bit of ground, in this case, we have received comments from DPW, Building Department, Fire Department, Health Department, the Traffic Engineer, and at this time, all outstanding comments are satisfied. The city used Bill Mayer, engineer from Niche Engineering, on the peer review. He's not with us tonight. He had vacation, and that's part of the reason we asked.
What?
The peer reviewer
Yeah, vacation.
is on vacation. How about that? I was going to yank him off vacation, but it's part of the reasoning why we asked Deirdre Hall to join us today if there was any technical issues on the stormwater. Excellent. But at this time, Niche Engineering is satisfied with all of its comments. Just to point out on the vote, this is a two-part vote. One is the site plan review. The second part is for special permit for the parking waiver. And the nature of that parking waiver is some side yard encroachment on the back of the property. That's 5 extra spaces for visitors. That's in addition to spaces underground. At this time, I don't have any issues with that encroachment. They're all designed or sized to city standards, and they more than meet the requirement for the project itself. So with that, I do have conditions, and I'd be more than happy to read those into the record.
Steve, before you do that, does it make sense to deal with the request for the waiver first?
That was, we had already issued that request from the staff level. We did not waive the photometric plan. We did receive that. And you noted the late correspondence today from the fire department. So, and that was pertaining to that traffic island that was proposed. The traffic engineer also weighed in on that and thought that would become a detriment. And as soon as we saw the fire department comments and the difficulty of getting a fire truck into that site that would be posed by that island, we need to move on from that element. So, go ahead. All right.
Please.
So the department recommends the board vote to approve the site plan review in accordance to the Quincy zoning ordinance, section 9.5.1, and issue a special permit under section 5.1.17 parking waiver, subject to the following conditions. And I would stop real briefly before I begin and speak to the abutter. In a lot of our planning board decisions, we talk about dust control, rodent control, and we bake those conditions in on every case, but you will hear them as I read through them, but I just wanted to call that out for you. In addition to getting the letter, the city also monitors all projects on those construction issues. So condition number 1, the planning board site plan approval is contingent upon the zoning board of appeal approval of the applicant's variance application. Number 2, the applicant shall adhere to the requirements of the city's tree ordinance. Number 3, prior to any building permits being issued, the applicant will perform a water flow test with the city's water department. Number 4, the applicant shall obtain approval of the stormwater and sewer connection permit from the Public Works Department prior to applying for a building permit. Number 5, it is crucial that any activities proposed for this development not cause rodent problems for abutters. Prior to obtaining a demolition or building permit, the applicant must submit a rodent control plan to the Department of Health for review and approval at least 10 days prior to any site activities. Rodent control practices must continue through the duration of the construction phase of the project. Number 6, the applicant shall develop a dust control plan to be submitted to the Department of Health and implemented during any site activities to ensure compliance with state air quality regulations, and shall commit to conformance with both local and state regulations regarding noise, since this project is within a residential neighborhood and construction could create noise-generating activities. Number 7, the applicant shall submit a pre-demolition survey to the Health Department for any potential asbestos-containing materials to be conducted by a licensed DLI certified inspector. If asbestos-containing materials is present, it must be removed by a licensed contractor, and post-abatement inspection must be performed by a DLI certified project monitor. Number 8, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the traffic engineer for review and approval at the same time that the building permit application is submitted for review by inspectional services. Review of the CMP will take a minimum of 2 weeks. The construction management plan shall include, but is not limited to, the following items. Subsection A, traffic management plans for any sidewalk replacement, curb ramps, and utility construction. Subsection B, truck route for deliveries to and from the highway. Subsection C, truck access to the site. D, construction signage. E, construction work hours and days. F, hours and days for deliveries. G, an erosion control plan. H, a schedule of work being done on-site and off-site and overall length of construction. I, location of construction fencing and gate on a plan with crushed stone apron. J, a traffic management plan for utility work. K, the detour route for vehicles. L, the route for pedestrians, including any ADA requirements, signage, and safety requirements. M, construction site plan for barriers, signage, including documentation of existing city and state signage that may be impacted by construction activities and will need to be replaced once construction is completed. N, the following statement should be included in the plan. Provide the city's traffic engineering 3 business days notice that construction will begin. O, provide a description of any work done in the street to provide a traffic management plan to perform this work for approval by the city's traffic engineer. Back to the main conditions. Number 9, the hours for construction activities and delivery of materials will be as follows. 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Saturday, and all construction and deliveries shall be prohibited on Sunday unless a different schedule is approved by the Chief of Police. Condition number 10, the post-construction operation and maintenance plan for the biome tenting facilities, subsurface detention basins, other drainage structures, and site maintenance, which includes the ownership and responsible parties, shall be recorded at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds as part of the Planning Board decision. Condition number 11, the applicant shall submit to the Planning Board a copy of the recorded condominium association agreement. And condition number 12, upon completion of this project, the applicant shall submit to the engineering department and planning board as-built plans showing all utilities, building footprints, reference bounds, and benchmarks defining the total site. Facilities and right-of-ways. Plans shall be submitted in a digital format acceptable to both the engineering and planning departments. And that would conclude our recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Any comments from board members? Motion to approve? Second? Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to the continued public hearing, 661, 665, 671 Washington Street. Site plan special permit planning board case 2016-09, which is continued from our July 13, 2016 meeting. The applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, for the record, my name is Edward Fleming. I'm here on behalf of Jumbo Self Storage for the property at 661 and 671 Washington Street. As you know, members of the board, this is a continuation of a hearing that was held last month, at which time we made a full presentation of the proposal. With me here tonight is Mr. Darrell Cusick and David Mitchell from Jumbo Self Storage and Andy Graves from BL Companies. I'll turn this over to Andy in a second to really make presentations of to respond to the items that were raised last time at the meeting. As you will likely remember, many of the comments from this board and also from was an understanding that this proposed self-storage facility on Washington Street will have very little impact as far as traffic and those types of matters are entailed. However, there was questions raised about the design to respond to issues such as turning movements from and to the facility, issues related to the truck access that I spoke with Mr. Stevens about as well, to the site to make sure that vehicles, the larger vehicles, could pull in off Washington Street and wouldn't hang out on Washington Street, which is, as we know, a very busy roadway. There was a question asked and raised about existing environmental concerns or issues, and a 21E report was provided to the planning department to respond to those matters as well. But primarily, the issue I think that was raised and discussed in most detail was the architectural or aesthetic elements of the building. And asked the applicant to really refine those and provide additional architectural features to the building. So that's what Mr. Graves is here to present tonight. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we provided the board and the department with revised architectural plans. I then had a conversation with Mr. Fatsis and Mr. Stevens again, and Mr. Kroll, the Council of Kroll, about the interest and desire of the city to even further look at architectural elements. And Mr. Graves went back to the drawing board and even has some additional items that he'd like to share with the board tonight that isn't necessarily in the plans. We're hopeful that those kind of changes are responsive to what the city requested. I think you, Mr. Chairman, raised, or someone raised a question about the whole gateway concept, that this is a gateway to the city, and the question was asked to look at the gateway elements that were part of the downtown planning. We did so. I know Mr. Graves attempted to incorporate some things in here. So without further ado from me, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Graves and he can review the plans again.
So one of the primary concerns was about access to the site.
Can you just identify yourself?
Andrew Graves, Principal of BL Companies. One of the concerns was access to the site. So what we've done is there originally were 2 more parking spaces up in this area outside the office. So we've taken those 2 spaces, we moved them down here so we're keeping the parking count the same. And lengthened the driveway coming in so there's room for 2 vehicles to queue here, making this movement here a lot more comfortable because there's more room for queuing. And again, as you know, these from an ITE manual standard of the lowest traffic generator possible. The access to the boat yard is here with this gate. Again, even though the driveway is fairly short, we still think the length is appropriate for the amount of vehicles that are coming in and out of the site. The other concern relative to the site was to sort of dress up the plantings to make it more like a gateway village to the downtown village. Although we're quite a ways away, we did add a fair amount of plantings. So we try to provide interest in all seasons. So we've got cadmium and daylilies for summer color. We've got fountain grass and switchgrass all along the sidewalk here, which adds structure, so even on the floor, you're still going to get some visual interest. And then junipers and inkberries, again, different textures, different color greens, mostly sort of last later in the season. And of course, junipers will be that color all year round. And then the street trees, we changed to red maple, which can have a nice bright red color in the fall. So we clustered them along the sidewalk, again, close to the sidewalk, gives them a nice scale, and then added a cluster of plantings just outside the office to sort of screen the parking from the line.
Can you just turn those a little bit so from the audience can see it?
In regards to the architecture, there's been
concerns about mass and scale, and then we heard a couple comments a few days ago about, again, sort of color and scale. So we've done a couple things. I went through the downtown regulations and design guidelines, and essentially a lot of it was geared towards the downtown and creating a pedestrian-friendly environment. We're sort of out here in a more suburban environment. One thing I did talk about is a gateway to a tower element, which is important to sort of create a sort of a gateway to the city. So what we did was we increased the prominence of this tower. We've actually raised it 4 or 5 feet. We've added additional brackets and detailing and pulled the cornice out. These would be translucent panels, so you'd be backlit in the evening. We changed the proportions. We were letting the floor sort of drive where the floors were. I think the Greeks had it right. The golden mean is a very nice proportion. Somehow when you do that, it sort of feels better. And again, this is a more formal element, so we decided to proportion. So this is actually golden mean here, and then a nice square tower on top. I think the proportions feel nice and more formal. The other thing we did was we darkened and enhanced the cornice on top of the building, give it a more traditional feel. It was sort of more modern, had a slighter cornice before. We added trim around the windows, and then subsequent to the package you got, we went back and added some additional details. This tower element at the loading area was down probably 12 feet lower, so we pulled it up, brought the cornice out here, put some translucent glass panels, and pulled out the overhang and added more glass. Sort of enhance this and sort of break it into sort of 4 segments. Again, we didn't want to make this too prominent. We didn't want to compete with the tower element. Again, we want this to be a prominent element of the property. So again, adding some mass without adding too much detail would make it complex and sort of messy. So we want to keep sort of a clean, simple look, but again, add some detailing and break the massing down. On the main facade, again, this is I think this is a fairly nicely proportioned facade. Again, in your package, we had the trim and the heavier cornice, and subsequent to after submission, we went back and added some more details, so we added a sort of lower tower here. Again, this is again an important corner coming from the opposite direction. We pulled the masonry base up, recessed the panel here, added plinths, and centered the window in this mass, and sort of pulled the cornice out as well. So again, I didn't want to make this too strong. This is such a strong and important corner element. We want to add enough detail to make it interesting and break it up, but again, not have to compete with this stronger corner element on this side. On the other side, there was concern about this facade. There was that residential building here. We originally had just these vertical panels here. We thought, again, this was going to be fairly visible coming from the other direction, so we've taken the same level of detail that we had on the main facades and wrapped around the corner. So we've taken this tower, wrapped in the corner, so it's a 2-sided tower. Brought the masonry across with the accent bands, the cornice. Again, we just had a gutter over here, so we're putting up a parapet and conductor heads so you get a nice formal look at the side of the building. So materials, we sort of brought the materials down, made it a little bit warmer. So the standard panels sort of a champagne color. So again, it's a horizontal. This is a commercial grade office building level panel with nice reveals. So you're going to have a reveal joint, almost feels like kind of a rusticated banding. We've got a nice warm masonry base with accent bands, intermediate levels. We've got cast stone for plinth blocks, both at this tower element and the corner tower element, as well as the new tower added at this side. We originally had anodized aluminum. It was too bright, so we went down to sort of champagne color. Again, sort of getting into a more muted, sort of friendly, like suggesting a sort of earth tone color. So it's sort of, again, we think it's still the colors are very harmonious, but again, a little more muted and earth tone for the suggestion of council. Questions or comments?
Questions from the board?
Just my personal opinion, but I want to commend the applicant for really listening to what we had to say and then coming back to us with some significant substantive changes from the change to the materials, to the facade, to the landscaping changes. I appreciate you really putting the effort that you did into changing the look, because You are correct that we are a significant distance from downtown, but this is the first building that people see when they enter Quincy from Weymouth, and it's really important that the look is exactly what we hope to convey when people come into the city. So I'm very happy with the new look. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
Just a quick question. Question about the signage. So will there be one sign for this now, the sign that I see right there on that image, or will there be multiple signs?
The proposal now is for 2 signs.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see the second sign. Okay. Oh, I see, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Director.
If I could ask you to, at some point, just take your renditions, and also the city councilor and some neighbors would like to get a better look at it. I'm sitting here in the audience. It's hard for me to see what you've been saying. So if you wouldn't mind at some point, just kind of a little bit more of a little tutorial so that some of the neighbors could hear what you had to say, kind of link together what you had to say. I ask you to repeat yourself, basically, while folks can see what you're saying, so they can get a little bit more sense of what you're doing. You've done quite a bit, and I don't want that to go, unspoken. And I like the counselor and some other neighbors who are right here also would like to just kind of hear you go over again what you've changed, and if I could ask you just to do a real quick rendition on what you just said. The counselor is now sitting right in front of you. So, that'll be very helpful for us.
Well, again, the basic thrust was to make it more traditional and highlight the traditional elements of the building. So we added a heavier trim, darker color trim around all the windows. We've enlarged the cornice at the top of the building, which is a very traditional element, and made it a darker color, so it stood out. Before it was the same color rest of the body of the building. We made this element larger. Again, this was shorter, and sort of broke down the mass of the building into 3 pieces. One big change was we made the tower taller, making it a more prominent element. We added a lot of detail and brackets up here, and then added glass here, which would be translucent and backlit, so it would almost be like a lighthouse, as it were, next to the boatyard, so it could glow in the evening. This is all glass. We changed the proportions, used very traditional Greek proportions called the golden mean, so the ratio between the base and the top is following traditional architectural detailing. We added a corner element in this corner here. Again, we didn't want it to be too strong, so it wouldn't compete, because this is a very strong counter element. If this got too strong, that added sort of what I would call visual confusion. So we wanted to break up the scale, but add detail, but not have it compete with this strong element here. So we pulled the cornice out, pulled the masonry base up, add some additional detailing around the base. The other strong concern was we had a very simple building facing the neighbors, so this was originally just this simple vertical metal panel. So we brought the same level of detail around the side of the building. So we've added 4 windows, brought the cornice up, brought the same detailing across. You've got a nice masonry base here with the accent bands, and then again this tower is going to be the same on two sides, so it looks like a real, visually like a tower with a raised masonry base and a recess to give it some beef. But again, it's not going to compete with a strong and important tower at the other corner.
You've also went over a little earlier the landscaping plan. If you could again just repeat a little bit of what that is and tell us, what's facing the neighbors and the trees themselves that you selected. Obviously, you're showing them as a product that's been there for a little while. Can you give us a sense of what the caliber of the trees are going to be on the site in the back, or those existing?
This is all new plantings. Whatever sort of is there now, we would leave wherever possible. So we're taking as little green break from the back of the building as possible. Generally, they're 2.5 inch caliber. The evergreens are 6 to 7 feet tall. So we've got black gum and white spruce, Colorado spruce, and weeping cherry. there's the weeping cherries out here. These are mostly the evergreens, the spruces, true from Hesper white and Colorado blue spruce. We do have some deciduous and black gum back in here. The red maples are along the front. And then again, to add sort of seasonal color, we've got the daylilies out along the front, the cadmium, the blue and the yellow. And then to add, sort of like I said, all season interest, we've got fountain grass and switchgrass sort of in clusters along the sidewalk, so they're alternating with each other. So again, you've got some nice structure that should look attractive all year round.
Thank you.
Meeting the members of the board. We also, as is understood, worked with the peer review and responded to all the peer review's comments and concerns, as well as the DPW and other city departments. And I confidently say, I believe that we responded to all of the comments that were raised by the peer review. I believe there were a couple of conditions that he recommended be included within the final recommendation of this body, but all of those matters have been appropriately addressed, so that drainage, and things of that nature are appropriately addressed. So that's essentially the applicant's presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flynn. My personal comment, I appreciate the effort that's been put into improving the plan. I think I, as a board member, need some additional time just to review what you've submitted, because this is the first time I've seen it. I don't know about my fellow board members, but I'd like an opportunity to spend a little bit more time reviewing it, which would probably mean we'd put it up to our next meeting. I think it's September 14th. I don't know what anybody else is feeling, so.
I appreciate that time.
So can I have a motion to continue it to the September 14th, 2016 meeting?
So
A second? Hearing none.
Thank you.
I didn't hear a second, that's what.
one more.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. May? Was the public hearing closed on this?
No.
Okay, so,
I want to put that. Yeah, Mike. We'll do public comment. Want to do it tonight? That's fine. Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I live in the condo, 77, beautiful, was built in 2000. I like my life and happy there, they're going to discuss about it. I don't like them. I run the water, St. Mark's and hard work. I can come up with a better idea of something looking better, coming over that bridge. If you're looking at a visionary thing, it's waterfront. It looks kind of out of place. And the idea that, like even in Hingham, you get the boat, you reenact the MBTA with the boats going out there, maybe some restaurants, that kind of thing. And you're starting off with this huge thing that kind of looks a little bit between a Walgreens and an updated, and the Dedham House of Correction in a sense, It is, it has like that tower does not look, I can drive a nice tower of what a lighthouse looks like. That looks like a gun and everything. It's not the vision to start off with if I was to do it. Other than that, I like the place. It is coming down where the sun comes up. It is really is about the sun coming in there. That lights up that new bridge that's coming in there is magnificent. It's going to be beautiful. I know it's been outdated, but it looks, and going over the water, and all of us do, go over bridges and things like that. And then it is a gateway kind of thing, and the boats and all that kind of stuff. Like I've come to the conclusion, I don't know, I mean, when it first started, they said to me, that it would be, because up the window, when I opened the window, it's beautiful, and I say the money across. And it's a pretty sight, I know. Maybe I'm not deserving of it, but it's not. Anyways, they told me, I didn't know at the time, other people seem to know about it, like ahead of time. A1 got out, other people that knew other people had a chance to get out. I could have unloaded it. Yeah, it will take down. But the big thing that was said to me, you kind of insulted my proposals, was that we're about it at 25 feet away. A mural painted on it, and this is not funny, like a baby shamoo, you know, when I open my level off. This is not humorous. I mean, it didn't insult people's intelligence, you know. I'm sorry I've been a little emotional. I like the place. I did, you know, go somewhere, you know, else or whatever. I don't know what to do. Put down. That's all. Yeah, I didn't know that yet. I did.
To be honest with you, that's funny. It does look like a Walgreens. Looks like Dedham House Corrections in the middle of the highway. We don't need that here. We don't need any more self-storage buildings in Quincy. They're going to open up that ground, and a lot of things are going to pop out of it. The EPA and all the ground, they should be out for 100 years. What's underneath the blacktop? No one's saying anything.
Why don't you build it by the Hyundai? There's so many empty areas all the way down the street.
When they take that blacktop off, all that water is going to start coming to the property. What are they going to do? What's the plan for drainage? I think their drainage plan is terrible, to be honest with you. I really do. I got the blueprints like you guys. I think it's terrible. We're going to get flooded. And our basements, in our condos, are our living rooms. Throw our hot water heaters out. Who's going to take care of us when that water comes across that ground? Starts leaking into our basements because of the water table. I don't hear anyone say anything about studies. Where's the water going to go? There's going to be a lot of it, and there is a lot of it. There's a lot of wind there. They're going to change the pattern of the wind with that building. We have a wind tunnel as it is that spins around right in our parking lot. No matter which way the wind blows, it spins around right in that building. But we're talking about weather, we're talking about rain, we're talking about the roads and everything you guys know you have to take care of because there's going to be a lot of them. Because the rats out there are real big. But the big thing is, the boats are still there. The councilor says for 2 years he's been fighting to get rid of that boatyard. It's an eyesore to everyone in Quincy. It's the only boatyard left in Quincy. They did a Marina Bay. You can't put your boat anywhere. People like us, where do you put your boat? If you don't go in your driveway. Leave the boatyard. We don't need that building. We don't need 1,075 units. That other building they built that went there today, less than half the building is occupied. You say you walk by it every day, you see nobody, it's half empty. All right, it's half empty. I went there today and talked to them. More than half empty. But he wouldn't give me the numbers because he's afraid of what's going to go on. But I told him where I was going. I told him about his competition, 1,075 units. Please, nobody comes to Quincy, tells us our projections say you need storage. We did fine without it. And you don't come to Quincy and tell us what to do. All right, multi-million dollar out-of-state company from Marion, Connecticut. And that kills it right there, Marion, Connecticut. I went to college in Connecticut, and I hate the state. But nobody tells anybody in this town what they need. We don't need that. You can build something else there. Build a park there so people will go there. When that bridge is finished, you build a park around that boat, just like they did down in Fall River. It's going to be nice. You're going to have the people who want to go over here. We've got the transportation. They can go anywhere. But that, please, you're leaving it open for nothing later. Nothing can be built in. And Mike Scalise's not stupid. He grew up a block over from me, right? He knows. He doesn't care. Listen, either way, go either way. And everyone thought, no one's going to come up here and speak to you guys. No one's going to say anything to you guys. I will. I'll tell you. It stinks. It's trying to be slid right by us all, You guys got a lot of work going on. And I feel bad for you all for all the projects that are going on in this city. But that one, call it the Gateway of Quincy. The Salem's the Gateway of Quincy. The people of Quincy, the men and women of Quincy built that show. Went out to sea and they came back. Did all this time in the Navy. That building's not the gateway to Quincy, I'm sorry. And anyone that calls it that, yeah, you know, think about it, it's a brainer, right? So please, don't let this thing go down, man. There's a lot of issues, construction issues, let's go to them. I've been delivering to job sites for 43 years. I know exactly what goes on involved. Where are they gonna put all the dirt when they build it? But they say it's not contaminated, because nobody seems to want to say what the dirt is underneath that land. There's a shipyard for 102 years. What's underneath it? Come on, you know, that old saying about painting the houses gray in Quincy, because everyone in the shipyard worked there, that's true. My next door neighbor did that. Right? They come home with the paint and paint the houses, and they're still gray to this day. There's a lot of crap underneath that ground. Don't let them open it up. Don't let them open it up. Where are they going to put the dirt? Where are the construction trucks going to park? I drive a truck for 43 years. Where are they going to park? You got two busy streets, Washington Street, South Street, and rush hour. And in between, what do you got? You got kids. A bundle of them across the street from me in the apartment house. Next door to me, in the other building, there's a bunch of kids. Think about it. One kid, all you need is one kid to be here. But all this construction is going to start. But you don't got any construction plans, you don't know what they're going to do. They just come up and say, our projections say, you need this. We don't need it, Quincy. And I think the Adams would roll over in their grave. You know, their friends said, we don't need you. Look what happened. Here we all are. We don't need another company from out of state that's only going to have 3 employees. It's not like they're hiring 100 Quincy residents that need work. Nothing. 3 people. One big empty building. Put something there like that. You know, we got a furrized plant. You know, think about that. You know, 24/7 access to this building. Who has access to it? Anybody in the world. What's going on in the world? Things blow up. Fuel farm, power plant, fuel farm, fertilizer. Come on. Anything can go in that building, and they don't care. They just chew and screw. They build it and leave. They don't care. They don't manage it. They don't do anything. We don't need that kind of business here at Quincy. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh,
If I can make one comment. As I've sat here year after year, just to this gentleman's comment, I appreciate you coming tonight. And I think that's something that's helpful every once in a while is for the board to remind the public what it is we do and what we're able to do and what we can't do to set expectations. Because I think that there are a lot of members of the public that think that we may have powers that we don't have. And one of those powers would be to decide what goes at this site. Meaning, if it's not in our power to decide whether a storage facility is appropriate or not for this site, it's in our power to make sure that the environmental issues that you addressed are concerned, the drainage issues, that it looks right for the site, that the traffic works. But when it comes to whether or not we can stop this project, I just want to make clear to set expectations that
Well, who does in the historical?
that's not what we're able to do here. But what we will do is we will work hard to make sure that the project that's brought before us, when it's a project that's able to be built by right, that we do our best to make sure that it fits for your neighborhood. And so I just thought that every once in a while it's helpful to remind people where our authority stops. And I think that just to address your comments, because I appreciate you coming in and talking.
My good friend tells me that all the time. He says, still open your mouth and speak. You know? That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this?
I'd like to make one quick comment, please. John Woodfield, 62 Grand Mall Road. Vice Chairman Barry, that actually a great lead-in for what I was going to say. They're pretty much not going to stop this. Something is going to go there, so it is your job to make sure that it's done right, exactly what you said. One thing that I think would be done right would be making it only 2 stories instead of 4 stories. Okay? They would still make money. It's almost like even the next project that's coming up, they can do a smaller project. We're not telling you to stop building in Quincy, but that's a big project. Every time now I drive by that storage place right near BJ's, this is all I think about. And the other thing I keep thinking about, am I correct, that they asked for 250 square foot signage, like a variance or something? I think they went to the variance. They wanted to put a bigger than normal sign there. let's say you guys do let them build a big building. We have zoning and planning and rules for a reason. They should still have a regular sign there. It's like you're giving them permission to put a huge billboard in that's way up higher. If it was a 2-story building, you wouldn't see it. Go through Dorchester or Southie, you see a lot of storage places that are 2 stories. So, you know, you can make it a smaller project. I bet they would still build a 2-story building there, still have a storage place, and, you know, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, you guys would get more light coming into your yard. There wouldn't be like a big drive-in movie screen on the back. And it's about making projects that work. You know, I think we changed the zoning code to make it more friendly for developers, and we need it to be more protective for the homeowners who have been here. You know, I'm going to get up again because I think there's something wrong with how you're letting people develop in the business C zone. I'm not sure what zone this is, but the space per dwelling unit and how things are and the dimensional charts, I'm not even sure what is currently up to date, and I'm not even sure if everyone who even works for the city currently knows what the current rules are. But the main thing is that this is too big, so when you come over the bridge, if it was just 2 stories, you probably wouldn't notice it. And what they said is that no one's going to go there anyway, so why do they need a big sign to have people see that it's there? So there's 2 things that I'm asking for. One is to make it smaller. And let's say if you do decide to give them the giant 4-story building that everyone's going to see, don't let them have a giant sign, because who knows, in the future, that could be an electronic sign that they could change that with. You're going to set a precedent that other people are going to say, we want a big sign. So it's all about people asking for too much, and this is one of the cases where these people are asking for too much. Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to speak on this issue? Okay, the board has voted to continue this item to its September 14th meeting. So the next item, which is a public hearing for 23 and 31 Bridge Street, site plan special permit, planning board approval. Planning board case 2016-12, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11, Quincy Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 24th, at 8:02, on or after 8:02, in the first floor boards and commissions room, Quincy City Hall, 1305 Hancock Street, in the application of Boston Property Development LLC, 125 Greenleaf Street, Quincy, Mass. 02169. For site plan review under Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 9.5.1, site plan review, and special permit under Sections 5.1.17, parking waiver, and 5.3.13, signs. The applicant proposes the demolition of the existing 2-family residential structure and the construction of a new 5-story multi-family residential building consisting of 60 residential units with garage parking under the building for 98 parking spaces. The applicant also proposes landscaping, drainage, and other site modifications. The property contains 30,828 plus or minus square feet of land and is located at 23 and 31 Bridge Street. Subject property is located within the Business C zoning district as shown in Assessors Plan 1156, Lot 4, Plot 2, and Map 1156, Lot 2. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, again, my name is Edward Fleming. I'm here on behalf of Boston Property Development LLC, and I'm joined by its principal, Mr. Peter McLaughlin, as well as the development team, which I'll identify as well. This is a property, as you indicated, it's actually 2 parcels of land identified as 23 and 31 Bridge Street. I know this matter was an application that was filed previously that this board, I believe, also entertained, that was withdrawn when this property was placed under agreement with Boston Property Development. It's located in the Business C zoning district, and although, as John indicated, we're allowing residential development in Business C. Business C actually permits multi-family residential development, and it provides for its own dimensional categories that are requested to be met. And I'll talk about those in a moment after we make our presentation, because this meets and exceeds many of the dimensional requirements of that ordinance, especially in light of issues like parking and dimensional requirements that are raised by that ordinance. And the purpose of Business C, and Business C is located in much of the downtown the area in the city, is to encourage dense residential developments. I'm also joined by the architectural team from Embark Studios, D'Artagnan Brown, who will make a presentation of the proposal, along with his colleagues Rob Del Silvio and Catherine Signal. They've put a great presentation together of architectural elements that I think the board will find to really be fitting in this particular area, where we have historic properties on both sides, both the Dorothy Quincy homestead and also the National Park Service. And Mr. Brown will talk about those elements in detail as he goes through his presentation. Our engineer is Jim Burke from DeSalle Burke Associates. Jim will make a brief presentation as well on the site-related issues, and as well as drainage and how that matter will be addressed. As this board is well aware, many of the site-related issues are reviewed by an independent peer review consultant. So much of that work is done with that consultant and responding to the concerns that consultant may have. But this presentation tonight will at least be for the public and for this board's edification. And our good friend Jack Gillen is our traffic engineer. Jack will not make a presentation tonight, but has prepared traffic reports and analysis to ensure that this will have safe traffic patterns through the neighborhood. It will not be a detrimental impact in the community. We know there's a lot of residential development, there's a lot of development within the city, but we're confident that this will not have a negative impact on the traffic in the city. Boston Property Development is a Quincy-based development company. They have their offices at 125 Greenleaf Street. Peter, who grew up in the neighborhood, actually on Putnam Street, brought his business back to Quincy from Boston and bought the building at the end of Greenleaf Street and renovated that, and that's where they presently operate from as we speak. I've had the pleasure of working with Boston Property Development on a couple of different projects in the city, just in this neighborhood. We first started off with the Marymount Road project, where an office building was converted to residential condominiums. They also acquired the property next door and created a parking lot for that facility, and I think it's been very well received in the neighborhood. And they also are presently underway with the construction of a really exciting project at the Temple Bethel site, which is directly adjacent to this property, in front of this property on Hancock Street. And that's coming along quite well. And that also is zoned similarly to this property and was approved, both of those projects were approved by this very body. I think they've been very well received. In fact, many of the folks that I've spoken with, including the counselors who are here tonight, had indicated that they really didn't receive any comments or complaints from neighbors during the construction of that big project at the Temple Bethel site. And it was very well received by the community, and I think it's coming along quite well. It's exciting to see that the reuse of that site after the Temple decided to move on and move to Milton. Boston Property entered into an agreement recently with the DeVarens, who own the property. Both Mary and Charles own each of those properties. The properties are presently consist of two family homes. And there's a large barn or garage in the back of the site. In addition to that, they have their garden, but most of the site, the remaining portion of the site is paved. The site, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, is approximately 30,828 square feet in total size. And those two family structures will be removed, and the garage will be removed from the site for the development of this proposal, which will be a 60-unit residential development with a garage parking underneath the building for 98 spaces. As you indicated, Mr. Chairman, we're seeking both site plan approval, because this building is the size that it is, over 3 units in size, at 60 units. And we are also seeking special permits for both parking, as it relates to setback issues, but more importantly, for signage as well, so that we can provide for signage on the building that we'll discuss in more detail as we go through the process and deal with peer review. So on that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Brown to go through, from Embark Studios, to go through the architectural presentation. Thank
Thank you, Ed. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Tammy Brown, Ms. Clark, and board student. Thank you for your time tonight. Next slide. Oh, sorry. By way of orientation, can you guys all see this? Yeah. Okay. So the site is located here in red, Bridge Street coming up here, Thayer Street down here. This is Hancock Street and Newport Ave. Next slide. A little aerial kind of view to show you the site outlined here in red. Again, across the street, which something we've looked at is the Adams Mansion, across the MBTA tracks, and then kind of the local context within the site. Some existing photos along here up Thayer Street, the residential context. This, as Ed mentioned, is the 999 Hancock, which is near completion. And our site here, this is on Newport Ave, looking up, you can see it's fairly well buffered by the green landscaping area there. Yeah, do you want to jump in, Jim, and talk through this a little? Sure. So Jim will jump in a second, but by way of orientation, you can see on the site presently exists 3 different structures. It is covered by a fairly large amount of hardscape area.
Good evening. Everybody has their own control. Fully loaded. But good evening. Jim Burke with the Selberg and Associates. We did a survey of 2 parcels right here, and I did kind of the working man's part. I have to get one of these computers in. But we did a survey, located the buildings and the topography, utilities, et cetera, and prepared a design base to put up this multi-residential property. What you have is 2 lots that have multi-families on them right now, fairly large parcels fed by water and sewer located in Bridge Street. A lot of pavement, driveway here, driveway on this side as well. So the sites are developed and we're looking to just redevelop them. What we're proposing is, I want to say, an 18,000, 20,000 square foot footprint, surface parking here, entrance here, garage entrance here and here. Service utilities are just going to be improved, fire connection, sewer connection, everything over here. We've got a small little drainage portion right here to take care of this driveway as it sheds to Bridge Street. The big item about this particular project is its sister project right over here. The applicant owns this property here and is currently under construction. This leach field, which was under review a couple of years ago by you guys, there's 144 Cultec chambers. What my analysis shows, as we combine this lot and this lot and put the model together for both existing and proposed conditions, if you go back before this was constructed and put the hydraulic model together, what this pond can do is we can expand it to additional 36 units, and it buffers the drainage from both lots. I know we're going to be subject to peer review. I believe Jerry Preble of Beals and Thomas did it last time, so I think that'd probably be a good idea to have him review the same thing.
Excuse me, Mr. Burke, I'll jump right in
Sure.
and inform the board. In fact, we have chosen Beals and Thomas for the peer review on this case. They're the ones that also did the peer review on 999 Hancock Street. This is a unique situation where they're going to link to a previously approved stormwater system. We have been in conversations with Mr. Duker and his department. He oversees both the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board. This will be a classic case where all 3 boards will be coming together in the review of this project. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thanks again. Thanks for pointing to the Conservation Commission. We actually filed a notice of intent. In this particular project, there was floodplain involved. Floodplain, and obviously this rises up, good 30 feet above this grade here. So we're outside the floodplain, but this line here represents the riverfront for Furnace Brook. So there's a 3,000 square foot sliver here that requires us to go see conservation. We're also going to be sistering up the power here. There's a transformer pad going in here for this building, and we're going to be doing the same thing for that. That I'd leave it open.
Yeah, thank you.
That changes.
So by way of orientation, we looked at a couple different ways to mask the site, understanding the greater context, and we eventually ended up at this this configuration. What this allowed us to do off of Bridge Street was to kind of create a welcoming lawn courtyard area. Originally, we had looked at putting the building up along Bridge Street, but we thought by pushing it back further towards the open space for pedestrian kind of activity along Bridge Street, this is a lot more inviting. And the main thing we've done with the building, which I'll show in a section, is actually hidden over the parking. We do have two separate entries, so off of Bridge Street here, it does get to a lot at grade, and then further down Bridge Street at the intersection here, we have underground parking. So kind of zooming into the architectural plans, Bridge Street is along down here, so the idea is we're working with the landscape architect to kind of design the courtyard. Residential folks here would come up kind of a landscape courtyard, a pathway and enter the building. The idea is to kind of have this very glassy and open so it looks out onto the green scape behind us. As I mentioned, some surface parking here for about 20 or so spaces. The idea is that this would be some residential, visitor, and drop-off for packages. And then the other balance of 70 spaces comes off here and actually goes down through the building. On the main level here, quickly through it is some lobby, lounge, fitness, and then a couple units. Just very quickly coming down through the building, so we're working with the grades to really enclose all of the parking subsurface. So the idea is that you ramp down, you've got a number of spots through here, and then you continue down further to get us the balance of the parking. Working through the units, we have a pretty healthy mix of studios, about 8%, average square feet's around 640. Then we have about 35% of one and one plus, one bedroom and one plus bedroom, so that's one with like a den office. Those range from about 750 to 900 square feet. And then the balance, about close to 60%, 58% is 2 bedrooms and 2 plus bedrooms that range from about 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. Next, even at early on, we just like to make sure the units work. So, even looking at how a studio is designed for this market, kind of separate bed, sleeping area. Again, the 1, 2, and 2 plus units. At this stage, we also like to look at how we can kind of activate the roof. So we are looking at a green roof in terms of landscaping elements, solar panel arrays that may be able to power a lot of the common areas, and then shielding a lot of, or all of the mechanical units kind of inbound to the structure. So being cognizant of sightlines beyond the kind of area of the building. So in section through here, this is Bridge Street up here. So as one approaches the building, you'd come up through the courtyard, you'd be able to look through kind of the glass ground floor lobby, foyer, lounge area out onto the Furnace Brook, kind of the landscape area which it hugs the 2 buildings. Actually, if you can go back. So you can see down here all of the parking, majority of the parking, the 74 spots, is all subsurface, and then as I mentioned, surface on the towards the end of Bridge Street is the combination of some residential, visitor, and drop-off. Above that is the 4 levels of residential, and I'll talk about the architecture in a minute. But in terms of elevations, and I think the renderings do a better job showing you this, but the idea again is that this is fairly open, a lot of glass. Actually, if you can just jump to that. So as one walks up, again, the idea is it's a very transparent, open vista out to the Furnace Brook. The parking is all shielded here, so there's a combination of kind of a just early on thinking about like a wood slat detail for more of a residential feel. Given that we're kind of located near the Adams Mansion, what we're looking at doing is kind of introducing a lot of brick into the building. So really the ground floor and then some end elements here. and then a combination of a cement fiber panel board and clapboard. As you turn the corner, this is a view up of Newport Ave. You can see again, taking advantage of the heavy screening. We are looking to kind of bring the brick vocabulary up to the end element here of the building and then kind of step the building down. Next slide. Again, as mentioned earlier on, just some of the materials, kind of the wood slab, maybe the potential for some of the landscaping elements in the front courtyard, combination of brick, the cement panels and clapboard, even looking early on at the window styles and, allowing for plenty of bike storage mechanisms, solar panels, and kind of, at this level, even some of the sustainable approaches for like a white TPO roof and, energy efficient appliances, windows, and such, which we can talk a bit more about. I think that's it. I think with that,
That's essentially the applicant's presentation tonight. We spoke about making kind of a brief overview presentation so that the board and the public would have an opportunity to view what we had to see. We understand that this is going to undergo a substantial level of review both by the departments and also by peer review. I know, in speaking with Mr. Stevens, peer review has just started, so it's going to take a little time to work through those comments, but we'll do so between now and the next meeting. And just a comment further on the level of review. Not only will this board review this matter, it's also, as Mr. Stevens indicated, appear before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which will also review and hopefully approve this project. And the Conservation Commission will entertain this as well. Obviously, right now, the water just essentially sheets off the site. It's not controlled at all. And the new drainage control system is going to actually, we hope, improve the existing conditions for the Furnace Brook. So we're confident that the Conservation Commission will find it to be a project that's going to benefit the Furnace Brook in the waterfront area. Interestingly enough, this project's actually further away from the riverfront than even the Temple Bethel site, which was significantly closer to that Furnace Brook area, and also obtained approval from both those bodies as well. So that's essentially our presentation for tonight.
Before we open it up, questions from board members? I have a question, Barry. Thank you for the presentation. I think it's a sharp-looking building, but I don't think I need to spend any time talking about how one of the most important resources that our city has is the National Historic Site that's within view of this new building. And so I know that you mentioned that you looked to incorporate brick, but I think the board would be interested in understanding what discussions, if any, have been had with the National Park Service to begin thinking about the impact of this building on that national park.
We haven't had those discussions yet, Mr. Barrett, but we certainly will do so. We'll reach out. I know that Marion Peak was here tonight. I don't know if she's still tonight. We'll certainly reach out to Ms. Peak and the National Park to ensure that they're comfortable with the style and the architectural character of the building. We did go into it understanding those national treasures. And in fact, I know quite a bit of time was spent on that architectural style, especially on that side as it affected that building. The nice thing is, as well, is that the MBTA maintains a certain buffer area on which much of that green, that natural green, is presently planted. So that area, as shown on this, will not be disturbed in any fashion. It will remain. So it will hide much of the building. But we'll talk with the National Park Service in detail about that as we go through. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just a couple quick questions. Is the plan for these units to be rentals or condo type units?
Right now, they're planned to be rentals.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think one of the elements of the special permit is signage, and you didn't touch that today. Will that be a later presentation?
we have,
Yeah, what we called out for on the plans that I think were submitted was location of where the signage would be. One on Bridge Street, there's a location on the side that maybe Dr. cannot point out. and also another on the, potentially on the National Park Service side as well, above the brick that's shown there, so.
So along Newport Ave, we're looking at the top banding here, put a sign. We haven't really granted the building yet, but the idea is to have a sign area there. And then this is along Bridge Street as you enter into the building. There's kind of an architectural element that wraps up that we thought that would be a good location for a sign.
So we've identified more the locations as opposed to the details on the signage, we're just showing it for that purpose.
So if you're at the John Adams Mansion site, you would see the sign at the top image, is that correct? That's what you would see.
Any other questions from board members? Couple of questions. You've got 98 parking spaces, your application represents you've got 98 parking places. How many of those are under?
Or under?
Yes.
So 22 are surface, and then the balance of 76 are under. I believe that's yeah.
And what's the maximum height of that building?
The maximum height is 64.5 from average grade.
Which is significantly lower than the Hamilton building and the One Adams, which I think, I understand that Hamilton's about 12 stories, this is five stories in total height above the street.
I mean, you alluded to National Park. I'd like to see some sort of a rendering showing, I know you showed the building looking back from, yeah, that one. Okay, I'd like to see something, as a representation as to what the visibility is from the National Park Service.
Sure, we can work on that. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to reiterate the concern about the sign. I think, obviously it was just a sample, but I think that's something that we should pay particular attention to this project.
Any other questions?
One
Go ahead,
more question. Can you go back to the Newport Ave view? That one? And I actually don't live too far from here, so I should know this, but are those evergreens that are shielding it, or are those? So the question is, in the winter, my question is, in the winter time,
Yeah,
will you see
there's a photograph of that area that I see. I believe they are.
Right there.
Oh, I see.
Bottom left.
Okay.
Yeah, through here.
So those are, so I guess my question is, in the winter time, will there be no leaves, and will you see, is that correct? You see the full building?
Okay. We can get a closer look at that.
Okay.
I think they may be mixed, but we'll identify that.
Any other questions from board members? I don't know whether the council wants to speak now, or do you want to hear the input from the
Is that public?
Yep, okay. Okay, so now's the opportunity for the public to voice comment. I would ask if you want to speak, to just come up and identify yourself. Anyone who wants to speak on this issue?
I'll speak about my zoning issue right now. John Rutherford, 62 Grenwall Road. Basically, right now, I'm looking at the zoning chart from the city of Quincy. And my problem is this, is that the most dense residential area is residential D. And on residential D, you can have 42,000 square feet of lot size. So may I ask first, what is the total lot size of this project?
The residential D.
No, the residential D, I'm looking at this. But it's missing from the other page, whether it's good or not, I don't know.
Business C has its own category, yeah. You're right.
No, I'm saying there actually is, if you look here, there's a residential D, okay? So it somehow is omitted from the regular city code, but the point is.
Can I just answer that one? The residence D was deleted from the city of Quincy zoning ordinance in
Correct.
1984.
Okay, yeah, it's still in
How'd you get that?
public documents, okay? Well, like I said, I mean, well, bottom line, so then I would have to say the most dense area is residential C for residential in the city right now, is that correct?
Business C is the.
Well, it's business C.
Well, business C as it is, but I'm just saying, business C was created for business, not for residents. So basically, one of the things is you have to have 42,000 square feet lot size, okay, to get that special variance. Am I correct? The dwelling unit size is 325 square feet per unit.
Correct.
If you grant them that special permit, But the way I look at it, unless they meet the 42,000 square foot lot size, then they get the rest of that. But you're gonna grant them a special permit to have that lot size thing, and it should be downsized. I mean, this project is so gigantic. You should not be able to see that from the Adams house. Again, make it shorter. When this came up before, they asked for 30 units. Now they're asking for 60. So the dwelling size per unit on this project, I think, approaches the 325 square feet. And then the open space that they actually have on their land, like, there is nothing. I mean, it's not your fault, and it's not the lawyer's fault that, the zoning code is so like it is, but this, the planning people, this is where you can help make sure the planning is done right. So they can ask for something, but it's up to you to make sure it's okay. And I certainly think that, not being able to see this from the Adams house has to be a must. So it definitely has to be smaller. It would have been nice. I mean, if you drive up Bridge Street, which I have many times right now during the construction, it's crazy. I challenge side street because it's a one-way, you can't go and you gotta go down that side street. It's like all bumps and stuff, so I feel bad for the people that live in that area if they're gonna continue this construction. I mean, I would rather have the city take money, give those two people that have those two multifamilies, buy it as open space, make it a park. That's what the Adams would like. Let's have no buildings there, because we already have a giant building that's already there. Let me ask you, Marion, from the Adams house, can you see that other apartment building, that big tall one they're talking about?
The executive house, 1025?
1025?
Oh, yes.
So that's visible
It's
already?
surrounded by houses.
So, I mean, it's just a matter of, that wasn't why John Adams left us that land for free. And it's about you guys protecting the views that John Adams left for the people of Quincy to enjoy. And, developing right is, it's just out of control. You guys need to stop this. I mean, the dwelling size per unit, let's just keep it at like 2,000 per square foot. They could maybe build like 6 or 8 townhouses there. So the fact that they're asking for 60 is just out of control. So I challenge you to just stand up to the developers one time for the people of Quincy and say no to a plan that I think is very bad. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wants to speak on this? Stand up, come on up and identify yourselves.
My name is Rick Doan. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Social Services. We are right across the street. Our main concern is parking, and we've talked with Peter and Boston Property, and they, have talked about working with us. They own those units around there, so we're excited that they have the parking. They're going to do a parking survey, but that's our biggest concern. And it's not just the long term; it's the short term too. The parking situation as construction is going on. There's going to be a number of street level parking places that we'll lose. So at Interfaith Social Services, we operate one of the largest emergency food pantries in Massachusetts, the largest in the South Shore. We serve about 25,000 people per year through our food pantry. And so we have a lot of traffic going through there. We also operate a mental health counseling center on site at that location, and a retail thrift shop out of that same location. So we are anxious to hear more plans, hear about the parking, what they anticipate, and we're glad that they have started talking with us before the project about how we can work together on this, but that's our biggest concern is parking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Peak, Superintendent of the Adams National Historical Park, and I represent the National Park Service. I have not had the privilege to speak with the developer at the Temple development. They have not contacted me. I'd be happy to talk with them about their ongoing construction. I'm curious about it and how it's going to impact that historic community and the parking situation as it has been approved and developed, how that will serve that greater residential component, and how many will be mobile and how many will be on bikes and how many will be walking to the T as they had established earlier. That's one project that's underway and looks like it's going to be finished pretty soon. I'm curious to see how this building fits in with that building and how compatible they are and which one is going to be the highest. I suspect it's going to be this one because the terrain is higher. And so it'll overlook or shadow the new one that's underway. And I couldn't quite understand your design, as you said, the glass, which I love glass, and you look through at Furnace Brook. I would suspect you'd be looking through and seeing another building, but maybe it'll be higher or it might be off to the side, but I'd like to be more comfortable about how that's going to be like, although it has nothing to do with the Adams house. I'm just curious. I'm also curious about the marketing component, because I read in the paper that this building is going to be have a garden, a roof garden overlooking the Adams house. And then I read that it was going to have solar panels on the rooftop. And I'm trying to think of, saving energy versus the hundreds of thousands of visitors to the Adams house looking at solar panels. Looking at a roof garden might not be so bad, but looking at mechanical, air conditioning, those kinds of things at a rooftop, do have an impact. Look at the benefit to the occupants looking at the Adams house is fabulous. The benefit of the visitor at the National Park Service looking at a brick building isn't so fabulous. And so it's something we have to be aware of and make important decisions as they relate to, what's the visual. I like the green, we need the green. Trust me, the train and the subway is noisy, it's often, it vibrates. We have proof of that. We are a 3-acre site, and at the far end, we hear the train, we feel it vibrating. So these folks will be too. So any screen that you can develop for that will be very beneficial. I also I'm concerned about the parking, and I don't understand your drawings. I'm seeing them for the very first time, but you have them around the building as far as I could tell, and so that means there may be greenery parking within the building. I'm not quite sure, but outside parking is critical, because all people want to park at the front door. Nobody wants to walk around as pretty as it is to the far away spot to get in the door. They want access. And does that mean as you park around the building, will you have other access points into the building for the residents? These are just a few questions I have. I want to make sure that we have a voice and that we can work with you. And I'm available if you'd like to make an appointment to meet with me. And as I become more familiar with it, and I have any other questions, I'll know who to contact and where to go. But thank you for this opportunity and for respecting the National Park Service within your community. Tomorrow we celebrate our 100th anniversary, our centennial. So we invite you between August 25th and 28th to come visit the old house, the property, free of charge, there's no fee. And we can familiarize you all with the resource so that when you're marketing your building to your residents, you have an understanding of what we represent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, and this also builds on what Member Barry said earlier, is that the John Adams Park area is one of the things that makes Quincy special. It's one of the things that makes us unique and obviously historical. So I guess my request is that we really understand what that view looks like. If you're looking, so we have the one rendering, maybe multiple renderings. As I was asking before, what does it look like in wintertime? Just to give us a comfort level in terms of what that angle looks like, because that is such an important site.
Yeah, and if I may follow up, and this isn't meant as criticism, but what we're looking for is a real view. I note on the rendering on the left, that's not what the wall looks like. So That's not what it looks like. So I'd like a realistic rendering. And I understand for purposes of tonight, this was initial, and I respect that, but I think that building off of what Member Caniso said, we want to really know what it looks like.
Yeah, we'll
Please.
certainly follow up and bring, I think we can take photographs and kind of montage the building there, so you
Mr. Chairman, I would just add that I think in addition to the signage, we really need to pay attention to what the roof line looks like and what utilities will be up there, in addition to just the design.
Any other questions? Anybody else would like to speak?
I just would like to add that, you know, what we have is what we have. And when you visit the site, I'd be happy with you and show you how the skyscape is impacted by building and development. And we have that very visible to us today. What decisions we make for the future, you know, can correct that. Hopefully.
Anyone else would like to speak? Okay, Council, you want to?
Yes.
All right, good evening. So thank you all. This project is actually in Ward 5, but a lot of the impact is in Ward 1. Council Hughes and I both co-hosted a neighborhood meeting back in July. So we did have an opportunity to present this informally to the neighbors. A couple of questions that I have, more so than comments. One, can you just, you mentioned the unit breakdown, and I know that's in the documents, but could you just reiterate that? And then 98 is the total parking spaces?
Correct.
60 units. So is this parking compliant, or is there parking relief being sought?
Surplus.
It's a surplus, so
Yeah,
you
it
need
is a surplus.
1.5 to 1.63.
1.5 required, okay, so what's the unit breakdown, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom?
So 8% studios, 34% 1 and 1+ bedrooms, and then 58% of the 2 and 2+ bedrooms.
Wouldn't be 2+ bedrooms, like 2
So
and a
2 and a
den.
den.
So there's no closet, so it's not really a third, so you're going, okay. Do we have the actual number versus percentage breakdown?
Yeah, we can.
All right, I just want to catch that, just I want to update
Say that again?
I want to
We actually
update
have
my.
a chart, yeah.
Okay.
Go back. So,
Okay, got it. You know
so
what,
we
I
have
have that, I have that. up.
5, I think you have that chart, 5 studios, 21 1-beds plus, and then the balance would be the 2 2+.
And so the 2 beds plus is 2 in an office, it's not, we don't have any 3-bed, 4-bed, larger units, okay?
Correct.
And there was reference about unit size, 325 square feet, and I thought that could not possibly
Of
be.
the open space? Or the
Were
per
we talking about
dwelling
floor
unit?
area issue? I guess I missed the reference. What's your unit square footage that you're
I
looking
think
at?
the reference was the.
600 to 1,200 square feet, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, zoning board, you filed for zoning board of appeal. What is the zoning relief that we're looking for?
We're requesting, as John pointed out, we're requesting relief from the lot area.
Lot area.
So that's the total lot size.
Yeah.
We're requesting relief for the height of the building because the code indicates 6 stories, however, it also says 60 feet. So we're asking, we have about a 64.5 foot building, tall building, so we're asking for height relief. And we're asking for some setback relief. The design of the building, as it's designed right here, with the creation of the park and the odd shape of the lot, requires that certain parts of the building be a little bit closer to the property line. And so we have some setback relief there. But we exceed the, we satisfy in the floor area ratio. We actually satisfy the minimum lot area per dwelling unit. The number of units that would be permitted is 62. We provided 60 units.
Yeah.
And the parking spaces that would be required is 90. We have 98.
Okay. Great. Thank you for clarifying.
And we also have
Do we have a
conservation.
date for zoning board?
We do. And zoning board of appeals is September 13th.
Of course. And how about conservation, do we have a date on that?
September 8th or so.
Okay. prior. Okay. This matter, I know, is not slated for a vote. We're waiting, still waiting for peer review, waiting for department head review. And I just was looking, were we looking to get this onto the next agenda, or what's our timeline from this body that you were anticipating?
Because this meeting is late in the month, typically we meet earlier. It's only a few weeks to the
Right.
September meeting. In all likelihood, it'd most likely be October by the time we can get through the entire technical review and be ready to offer a recommendation.
And so what's your date offhand?
October?
Okay, I just want to put that on for the constituents who are not here in the audience. I appreciate your comments about the vista. I think this is a much better exterior than what we saw with the solar siding. Remember that other previous proposal I had for the vista? So that we're substantially moving in the right direction. And then my biggest concern, as it is, and I've been before you on many of the projects in this neighborhood and many by this developer, is parking. So this project shouldn't own the problem that exists in the neighborhood. As you heard, this is parking compliant, this is parking surplus. However, Mr. Fatsis, if you could take this comment back to our new TPAL department, this neighborhood has been properties, and there's a significant significant parking problem. Any of these side streets, Bridge Street, Thayer Street, you can't get a parking spot at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, right? I mean, you just cannot park in this neighborhood. So it's not the problem of this particular application, but it's something that Councilor Hughes and I have been consistently hearing from this neighborhood. So we'd like to maybe reach out to the Hamilton House. I know we heard from some of those residents, and I believe you've submitted for the record that communication relative to parking concerns. But I wanted to clarify this being parking compliant. And with that, I just, show of hands, who is in the audience here for this project? And any of you Ward 1 residents? Just wanted to check on who I have here in the audience for myself, for my own application. Other than that, I appreciate, I know there's a lot of work that goes into this by the board, and we'll be working on this with you, and I'll keep you posted as to who I'm hearing from concerns, but they will say the project team has been terrific to work with. You've always been very receptive and responsive, whether it's to me, like Mr. Jones said, to the abutters. So I just want that on record to be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Excuse me, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, I just, point of clarification, the Conservation Commission meeting is September 7th. That meeting starts at 7:30, and this matter is on that agenda.
Okay. Clearly, we've heard an awful lot of information. I think the applicant has a number of items that he needs to put together before they come back to us. So I'd be looking for a motion to continue this. And I'm a little reluctant to say to the October meeting, because I have a conflict with the 12th of October meeting. And, not that you can't go without me, but then you're down to 4 members. So if it isn't, if we need to change it, it would be sometime in October, but it could be the following week, could be whatever. Or we can go without.
Can it be?
Councilor.
I'm just concerned about it. Would it, as far as communication, right? We're following a lot of these projects, and I've got a lot of other ones in the pipeline. So whether, can it be continued not to the next September meeting, so that it will be?
So it won't be in the September meeting.
Okay, that's
It'll be
just my
October,
concern, as long as it's.
Question what that, I
Okay.
would prefer to be able to tell the general public as to what that date is.
I just don't want constituents showing up at a September meeting knowing we're not ready.
No, it will not be on our
Including myself.
14th of September meeting.
Great.
Okay, well, at this stage, I'd ask for a motion to continue this to our October meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple business items. I have a motion to accept the minutes from the 2 meetings.
I had my son working over there.
Mr. Chairman, just you.
Just June. Okay. Great. Okay, to new business. Vote on the amendment.
Yes. Mr. Walker is here representing the flower.
Hey, Margaret.
You can. Update my blog post because it looks super. I did, thank you. Yeah, we should talk about it. Oh, yeah, just a quick photo. So my blog post has the over. Did?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, are you guys talking about?
I was just saying that when I think
Okay. Okay, we have a request, review and a vote on the amendment to the decision for 600 hour Crown Colony site plan planning board case 2014-01 to eliminate the proposed walkway amenity due to public safety concerns. Mr. Watson is here on behalf of the direction. So what's the drop off? It's the one that passed out.
Members of the board, Fred Keeler from HW Norso, civil engineers for the project, Kevin Walker from John Flatley. As you know, the project's been under construction for a few months now. And we've had some layout done out here, and John and Kevin and I, the contractor, we walked the perimeter after we staked out some of these improvements, and we didn't feel comfortable with the proximity of this perimeter path to some of the ledges around the perimeter. Particularly up in this area here, on the north side, is a steep cliff. So we felt it best to come before the board and see if we can eliminate this perimeter path for safety reasons primarily. There are plenty of interior sidewalks that will remain on the project. There's also sidewalk connecting to Marriott Drive, which connects up to the hotel as well as to Crown Colony. There's about a mile loop if someone wanted to walk around Crown Colony, Congress Street, and back up to Marriott Drive to the project. So there's plenty of walking opportunities on-site and off-site in the park itself. So that's the reason is safety primarily at the area.
That's why I asked you about the drop off.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 70 feet. Something like that.
Okay, so the board's approval, case 2014-01, the plan, strike that, yeah, the plan represented the walkway amenity as part of its approval. So the applicant is now asking for the elimination of that proposed plan. Is that correct? Okay. Right.
Just to refresh my memory, was the proposed walkway meant to be a public amenity, or was it meant to be just a means of residents circulating around the property?
It was for the residents of the community.
That's what I thought. So it wasn't that we're taking away something that we had been hoping people would utilize.
That's correct. It was specific for the residents of.
Okay.
Just a quick question. I see on the plan that I have, there is a picnic area site. Does that go away as well as the?
No,
it's in. Okay.
This is the plan that you approved. The path is shaded in brown. And I can make the picnic areas depict a little better on the next plan.
Right, that's at the top of the, yeah.
Right, we have a picnic area up here. That's going to stay.
That's going to stay.
Yeah, as well as the play area, the tennis courts. The clubhouse is a significant amenity area in the center of the project, as well as, as you mentioned, the picnic area.
Okay, so the picnic area is not in the danger zone.
It's not. This is pretty flat in here.
Okay.
It's still elevated, but it's flat. This is an opportunity to create a nice area.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Have a motion to approve the amended plan? So moved. Second. Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. The other request, since the planning board has the authority to name or rename private ways, the applicant is requesting that the private way be renamed to 600R Crown Drive, am I correct? Because there is a Crown Colony Drive, and that's not a private way.
You're right, I believe that, I think the name was going to be.
Just Crown Drive.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. Okay, without the numerical designation, without the number designation.
Right.
Because it would be, you'll be the only one on it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the applicant is requesting street name change, rename what is Marriott Drive? Or it doesn't have a name?
Doesn't have a name.
Okay,
It
so.
would be the site road that's named Crown Drive. Mary Drive still exists.
Okay,
That's,
so the name is now Crown Drive.
So moved.
Yeah, second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Disappointed, I wanted to see some people fall off that walking trail just to see what would happen, see how long it would take for us to get them.
Before everybody leaves, and I think Member Camiso, I agree with Member Camiso, we need to discuss availability for the October meeting. But while we're discussing that, the board is going to have to sign the Mylars for.
If we have to change the date, we should get cracking on that, if that's.
Yeah, I don't know, if I'm the only one, I'm fine. If you're looking at vote stuff, we need a 4 out of 4.
I am available on the 12th, I'm available on the 5th, I'm available.
I'm available as well. So those are all the Wednesdays.
5th and the
before and
19th.
after.
What is that? The
5th or the
or
19th.
Yeah.
How is the schedule for the 19th?
Works for me.
Fine for me. Works for me, you guys have changed it to me. I'll be in Bermuda.
You'll be back.
You could
I'll
just.
be back from Bermuda, hopefully.
Well, I mean, if you still, if you don't.
Hopefully not.
Just making the cruise.
Okay.
Okay, so what are we doing?
We're looking at the 19th now. I mean, if we could set it, you know, just get the wheels in motion, which gives the public more of an opportunity to participate, if we can get it out.
What I asked them,
So if you can look at
after
the
we sign
19th.
it, tell them we want, rather than signing paper copies, we want signed copies, and we want prints, and we want CDs. Reproducible CDs on these.
Okay.
Rather than
So 1, 2,
That's
3,
CPIA.
Sepias.
Yep.
CPS. Well, I like that. Chairman, Lee.
Director.
The 19th looks to be acceptable to the membership.
All right. I appreciate that. So the next.
So everyone can do the 19th.
Yep.
Mr. Stevens, you're on the 19th of October? I don't know, you know, it might be your anniversary or something, yeah?
It should be.
Oh, no.
The SNEPA conference might be the Thursday after, but I'll be here.
All right. Yeah, if we, the thought there is just, the more time we can get it out there in the public, the more time we can have for
Susan, I'm leaving my,
public participation.
Thank you.
and my recycle.
Do all members need to sign this?
Yes. Yeah, all members are going to have to sign this.
Yeah. Before you leave, Sean,
There's no signature pages on the other sheets?
With the exception of the first one.
Yeah, I make a motion to have the 18 next time.
yeah, I'm with you. I'll second that motion.
I didn't hear a second on it.
So do I need to have them?
Well, they need to put a signature block on each one of them, okay?
Okay.
And I think we make it so that we can sign
Cheese
it.
and crackers.
Rather have more
Drop
than
them all on
I think
this.
we can sign this.
No, there's only one spot for signatures.
Why didn't pencil that?
Okay,
John, you hear that?
don't go
19th
anywhere,
to be
guys, I
public.
need you to sign the
Next step.
150.
I check the website daily.
Huh?
I check the website daily.
Well, these guys agreed to it.
Gotta sign the cover. You gotta sign the,
I think we should stop and sign the cover.
No, sign.
yeah, that's all. What do they need?
That's the one that the big sign.
It's nice.
Required a lot of
Can you use blue on that?
Good, anything.
Blue?
Yeah. there was going to be that kind of reversion. I do think for that, that concept, which I don't know the name of this.
And
At this time, they just keep going back and everything.
we weren't able to go to the Sunday one, so they had.
I don't know why they.
On the Friday, so we got to basically see it, and
They got.
you do, it's just some fun.
Any other things, Susan? Susan, make sure they get the city clerk to sign it.
Yes,
Yeah, we always,
but I'm gonna need to get home.
We did, we already did this.
You understand what I was talking about on the business C?
Well,
I do,
mean, they're gonna have
but like I said, business B, it's just result.
Rather than
perhaps
each one of the board
we can't
members
even
signing
consider it anymore.
papers, okay?
I mean,
Residential C, okay.
Business C, I heard what you're saying, I think they're within the rights. But again, that'll all be
That way the
determined.
department heads.
I think they have the
Used to be
FAR they
12.
need, which is
And I'd ask them to
the,
see.
3.5 of the floor area, but all I'm saying is that that's wicked
Just have copies.
for residential.
by right, they can pretty much do that.
No, exactly, but by right, there's something wrong with the zoning.
No, I know.
Because it's opening the door, because Mr. Fleming's gonna keep coming back.
Let me give you a